Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys a review of a Sonication by Obscura. So we've been listening to this album non-stop for the entire week, and I'm gonna hand the floor over to Vile Self. What are your thoughts after 1 week of listening?
So, just to preface, like I like to do, went into this pretty excited.
Yeah.
Because it's just piggybacking off of Valediction, which was their last album, and it got 2 toe tags.
It did.
And I also listened to that album again, as well as Diluvium. I keep thinking it's called Delirium, but it's Diluvium. I listened to both those albums to hype for this new one last week. And yeah, they got me fired up because I feel like both of those albums are such good albums. So I went into this bar kinda high. Sometimes that pays off, sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I feel like it didn't pay off.
Yeah, and you were saying that last week.
I was saying that last week, the first impression. And, you know, the challenge is, listening to it through the week, is this gonna grow on me now? I think the phrase I used last week is, there could be something special there. Or there could be some hidden gems on this album that we have to find by listening to it through the week.
So how'd the excavation go?
That was my goal. That was my excavation didn't go that well. I'm just gonna say that, okay? I feel like this is a big step down from the last album, and it's a little bit scary because this is part 2 of a trilogy, allegedly. Valediction was the first part of the trilogy. This is the second part, and I'm not feeling the trajectory that the band has gone with this album. The album, to me, felt like it had no soul. It felt like it was kind of thrown together. And again, I listened to a Valediction again, and I hate to just keep comparing, but this is where, you know, I gotta explain why my feelings are the way they are. But in a Valediction, I felt like there was so much personality there. And there was so much, like I said, soul on that album, and good songwriting and composure and structure and all that stuff. I felt like this album just didn't have any of that. Every song to me was feeling flat and dry and void of purpose and meaning. And I hate to talk like this about an album, I really do. But I did a little bit of, I guess, digging or whatever, and found that they did go through a lineup change for this album. And basically everybody except for frontman Stefan is a new member. Actually, I think one of the members might have been an old member that came back, but still, when you recycle all your members or change members like that, you have to rekindle. The chemistry doesn't stick. You have to rekindle. I like that word. You have to do it again with the new people. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And I don't think it worked here. I didn't feel like there was any chemistry with the band here.
I think with bands like that though, because there are bands out there that are like that, where it's kind of like the brainchild of one person and that's always a revolving door. Mushroomhead's a really good example of that. It's basically Skinny's band and a lot of the people around him are consistently changing.
Yeah.
And, you know, they've been able to still have aspects of their personality even in the modern music.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm not saying this doesn't sound like Obscura.
Yeah, it does, but
it still sounds like the same band, but...
you know, and even to comment on the Mushroomhead example again, the new stuff doesn't sound just like the old stuff. There is a difference there.
Yeah.
Just like how there is a difference here.
Yeah, and some people might like the way this sounds and prefer it over albums like a Valediction. But for me, it didn't really work. So there is stuff on here that I thought was okay, right? But there's just nothing on here that I thought was great or that I could add to the playlist or really kind of highly recommend in any way. But some of the stuff I did like, I'll just go through some of that stuff. First off, the highlight song on the album for me is the opening track, Silver Linings. This is a song that I gravitated towards the most, and I think it's mostly the hammer-on pull-off riffs are just awesome on this song, and I really just liked listening to those. It still reminds me of Arch Enemy. I still get that vibe when I'm listening to it, but that's not a dig or anything like that. That's just me making a comment. But the hammer-on pull-off riffs, really, really cool. I like the guitar tone at the beginning of Evenfall. I thought it was really an interesting type of tone. It almost sounded like an angry cat meow or something like that. Like I was getting kind of a weird thing with it.
Like with the bass.
Was it bass? I don't know.
So, and I think that's kind of one of my positives of this album is I love the bass tone. And I think I mentioned that last week. That was a consistent thing throughout this album. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree with that too. The bass is quite prominent and it does have a nice kind of warm tone to it. In Solitude, I'm just going track by track here, it feels like. I'm not going to do all the tracks, but in Solitude, this one I felt like kind of had a Black Dahlia Murder kind of sound to it. And I was listening to it going, this kind of really reminds me of something. What is it? What is it? And I went, wait a second, this sounds like a Black Dahlia type of song. And I mean, that's cool. Black Dahlia, who doesn't like Black Dahlia Murder? Really cool stuff. Then you got Beyond the Seventh Sun, which is an instrumental track. It's fine for an instrumental. I added it to my instrumental playlist. I think it's okay. But on an album that's full of kind of weak tracks, there was like a good chance for this one to really shine and take a spotlight, and it just didn't do that. One thing about this song though, and you could correct me if I'm wrong about this, I'm pretty sure it's a polyrhythm that kind of appears at about the 120 mark. I don't know if you caught it or not.
I'd have to hear the part in question.
That's what it sounded like to me.
know.
I listened to it a few times and I'm kind of trying to make out what's going on, but you're a lot better than that at that than I am for sure. But I just felt like it was kind of out of place, but a good effort to try something different. The thing that takes me away from it is in the next song, Stardust, almost the exact same polyrhythm happens again, like twice in the song, and I have a timestamp at 3:33 on this song. It just feels like they had a good idea, they tried it for a bar or two, and then in the next song went, let's just do that again, and just did it again. And I was like, why? And especially back-to-back songs, that put a bad taste in my mouth having them that close together as well.
If it's like, and there's ways to do that effectively. There's ways to recapitulate, create a leitmotif. Like, there's ways to do it tastefully.
Exactly.
But in this case, it just kind of sounds more like a recycling.
It felt exactly. That's perfectly worded. The last thing I want to mention that I did like before you could take the floor and tell us your positives or grievances. In the song Sun Eater, I really like the dual vocal style on that song. I don't know if it's two vocalists or the same vocalist doing both parts. I'm not entirely sure. But they got like a high, harsh, and a death growl doing a call and answer type of thing. And I felt like that was executed quite well on that song. So Sun Eater is actually a pretty good song as well. But most of the songs on this album, like I said, they just kind of fell flat for me. And there's just very few highlights amongst the album, and even those highlights aren't that great. They're just fine. So,
well, I'm gonna piggyback off of the Sun Eater and mention that this was a song that it's one of those songs where you keep hearing this thing you like. What track is that? Oh, it's that one. I really like the low growls on this track, and that was consistent. Whenever he'd be doing the low growls, I'm like, yeah, this is cool. Oh, this is Sun Eater. Nice.
Yeah, it sounded lower than other songs.
Yeah,
like a little bit more deathy.
But that was kind of like the main takeaway with that song, you know. And you know, it's funny that you said Silver Linings is like your top track. I was kind of getting sick of it. I would listen to this album over and over, and every time I started, I'd be like, yeah, here it is again. Like, it just wouldn't really strike me. There's a thing in it that I made a note about. This is like pretty minuscule, I guess.
Yeah.
After the first chorus, there's this little guitar solo that bleeds into the next verse, which we've complimented a lot on this channel. But for some reason in this song, it was annoying me. And I think because it sounds like he went for a little bit too long. And it kind of sounds like, is he still no? Okay. You know what I mean? He just keeps going, and then the verse starts, and it's like, who am I paying attention to here? Because this guy's still wailing, and it's like, you know, I feel like it could have been maybe a bar or two shorter. And
solo?
That solo,
Yeah.
Like the way that it bleeds into, like just have it a bar or two less.
Yeah.
Because I think it's cool when it's like, wow, it goes and then it kind of bleeds into the verse. But it's in this case, it kind of sounded like, obviously, you know, however they put this album together, but it kind of sounded like if it was like a live show, a miscommunication. Like, this guy's still going, but the form is this, so we're going to keep going. And so then it's just like, you know what I mean?
I feel like there was an album we reviewed pretty recently, within the past few weeks or so, where I commented on something like that, where a solo kept going, but the verse kicked in, and I saw that as a positive thing. Like, I thought it was cool that they kind of blended together and
like I said, we've both complimented this kind of thing.
Okay, I got what you mean by that now. Okay,
but it's just in this specific case,
it sounded a little off.
It sounded a little off, and it was a bit too long. But like in general, I think it's a cool thing to do. Yeah. And like I said, this is totally a minuscule thing, but it's like that was just something that kept popping up to me when I listened to this song. But I thought it was a cool track, and I liked it at first, and I remember you commented on the song, like, why is this track 2? This should be in the middle of the album.
I still feel that way.
I agree with you now.
Okay, yeah.
Because as I'm listening to this track, I'm like, this is a really nice track, but why is it track 2? It feels like a track 4 or 5. It feels like a mid-album break song. However, I feel like it's easier to digest if you have this album on loop. Because then the action is constant, and then you have that break. But if you just come in fresh and start from the top, and then you get to this track, you'll think like, wow, like this kind of feels like it should be in the middle. You know?
Yeah.
So I like
exactly
the song,
right.
but I think it could be just shifted down a few spots.
Yep, totally.
So, you know, having the kind of vibe shift that quickly and early in an album is effective for albums that give you kind of a tonal roller coaster. Albums that go like all over the place, like kind of emotionally in a sense. So like in this case, this is not that. This is just not that kind of album. So it wouldn't work as well. If this was an album that did that, then it's like, yeah, go for it.
Right.
Doesn't do that. I feel that the prolonging is one of the stronger songs. It's just too short. It is the 2 minute, it is the 2 minute song. The drum intro's cool. The growls are in this one. They're cool. I feel like, to me, it felt like this was a better version of Silver Linings, but it's too short. You know what I mean? It's on the faster and more aggressive side, and it fits in with, that what Silver Linings brings to the table. They both do a similar function on the album. It's just this one feels like a better version of that. It's just too short.
Yeah.
And it would just come and go way too fast. And I'm like, man, this is cool. I wish they developed it more. I thought the instrumental was pretty cool, Beyond the Seventh Sun.
It's decent. It's good.
It's not a mind blower track. It didn't like, holy shit, did you hear that instrumental? But I like how much the bass is featured, not only on this album, but especially in this song, and as a solo. The acoustic bookend with that bass melody, also really nice as well. So it's good. And I also feel that the title track is pretty cool. It gives you the essence of it being in like epic closer. It's like this 7-minute song, and it feels proper to have this be the ending of the album.
Fair, yeah.
So, and I also really like that the last chunk of the song is the guitar just going crazy, and they fade out on that.
I like that too.
It's like within the past few months, I could recall 3 albums, including this one, that do that.
Yeah.
Which is weird that there's 3 albums that have done that, and it's good every time.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an idea that works, really.
Yeah, no, and I think...
It's like riding off into the sunset.
Exactly, and if you have a guitar player that's just slick with it, then they can make some magic leading a song out like that.
Yeah, they don't have to be slick with it. If you got somebody that can fade out no matter what they're doing, then it works.
But it's like, this is like fading out on like a long-ass guitar solo.
Yeah.
And it's like they just keep going and going, and it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, but I was finding for a while it was kind of hard to write notes. This album didn't feel like... I basically feel similar to you. It didn't feel like there was much on this album that really stood out as something special.
There's nothing inspiring.
And there were some cool things and some good songs, and you know what? I think maybe this could have been, if you cut out some of the songs that really kind of just came and went and I had nothing really for it, and just kept like the ones that kind of felt strong, this could have been a pretty strong EP, if you think about it that way.
Yeah.
You cut out a few and just keep that stronger collection of songs, and it's like, damn, that's a pretty solid EP.
Yeah.
But, so I didn't feel like, there was a lot of like, I didn't really feel much, but then there were some songs I was like, oh, I get it, kind of neat, pretty good, I guess. I listened to A Valediction for the first time in a while, later on in the week, because I wanted, after I really developed my own opinion on focusing on this album, I wanted to get the reference again from an album that I know I loved back when it came out.
Correct.
It's on the 2 Toe Tags list.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a question of like, okay, that album's so good, let's see them prove it to me again.
Right.
And it just took the starting song to do that.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as I put it on, everything came back. I'm like, oh my God, this album's sick.
Yeah.
So then it kind of just made me realize, like, yeah, this album doesn't have the spark that one does. There's good stuff on it, but it's just like, it feels like a step down. And I guess with that being said, let's rate the album. I basically said how I feel about this record, that it does feel like a step down. Not a bad record, but it does have a decent amount of tracks that kind of just don't really do too much, and some tracks that are pretty good. Could have been a strong EP. It's gonna get a 5.5 from me.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think most metalheads could put this album on and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Right? It's not a bad album. It's not horrendous. There's nothing on here that's annoying or poorly crafted or anything like that. It's decent enough. But it really does lack spark. It really lacks soul. It really lacks personality, and it feels bland in most cases from song to song. So I'm giving it a 4.
Well, a 4 from Vile and a 5.5 from myself. Unfortunately, not the best scores for this time around with Obscura, but it happens.
You guys gotta check it out yourselves, though. Don't listen to us.
Yeah.
I mean,
you don't have to listen to us.
Everybody has different tastes, different flavors, and it might float your boat better than it floats ours. So,
And let us know in the comments if that is or is not the case. If you think this is an upgrade, a downgrade, a side grade, however you feel about this album, let us know in the comments. We'd love to see how you guys feel about these records. And subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
We'll see you guys later.